Greenways Open Space meeting. And again, I would like to call the meeting to order at 7:04. Could we please stand and let's say the Pledge of Allegiance? To the right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. If you're a regular follower of our Greenways Open Space meetings, you'll notice the last meeting we had a full house, but tonight we have many members are still on vacation, and I do know that our township liaison and James Brock, our other liaison, are at a municipal event for training, so I can at least, but we have a quorum, and I certainly want to welcome our new members to the committee. To my right is Yolanda Brown, and to her right is Robert Carson. So welcome, and we'll hear a few from you in a minute. But I will call the roll, and so Urbani, absent. Carson? Here. Brown?
Here.
Geist?
Here.
Phillips? Shelton? Robinson? And Bartlett? And Brock? Not here. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented?
None.
Look, I would then entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Geist,
Second.
second by Ms. Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? No. Good. We have 2 minutes that we need to approve. The first one is the minutes of March 4th, our regular meeting that we had, and it's in nice springy purple. Actually, I ran out of white paper. But, so if we would take a minute or two and look at that. And for our new members, we have to maybe take it her word for it, as Mr. Geist many times double checks all our minutes against the video presentation, which is why this is memorialized as it is. But take a look at that, and then I would entertain a motion to approve the March 4th minutes.
I'll motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Moved by Mr. Carson,
Second.
second by Mr. Geist. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of the March 4th Greenways Open Space minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Good. We also have a special meeting, and you guys were there for that. In more ways than one, as you realize, at least our recommendation. And so if you take a look at the other white sheet that's in your packet, this was a special meeting that we had to have. We had interviews of 4 candidates for 2 vacancies on our committee, and we had absolutely excellent candidates. All 4 of the candidates that we interviewed were outstanding, and but we also looked at these 2 as our best choice and the best fit for this committee, and we would refer the other candidates to different committees on the township because they would serve the township well. So if you would take a look at, and I would entertain a motion to approve the special meeting minutes from March 11th.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Geist,
Second.
second by Ms. Brown. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the special meeting minutes of March 11th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? No. Good. Thank you. This is one of 2 opportunities for the public to speak, and I know at the township, at the board level, and through all the different committee and commission meetings now, there are 2 opportunities for members of the public to step forward if they so choose and can make their 3 minutes to address the committees. So at this point in time, I don't hear any meetings of the public or any comments. Also, at this time, this would be our time if we would have presentations. And so many times we will have either members of the public, or we would call in experts to our committee, or we would do a particular presentation to this that may have to involve our overheads and things of this nature. So at this time, but what I would like to do as a sense of a presentation, I would like to at least present Ms. Yolanda Brown and Mr. Robert Carson. So why don't you just maybe tell our viewing public out there maybe like why or a little bit about yourself and what you hope to bring to this committee.
I'll go ahead and start. Yes, Yolanda Brown.
Here we go.
Yes, Yolanda Brown. And I've actually only lived on the island almost 2 years now. And as soon as I discovered the open spaces existed, I got really excited, and it started stirring in my brain. I wanted to be involved because I knew it had to be maintained somehow. So very happy to be here for that. And I have a background in project management. I work in software, but my passion is getting outdoors and walking and seeing the things that we like to take care of here on the island. So, yeah.
Bob Carson. I've lived on Grosse also for about 2 years, and when I came to the island and just saw all the beautiful nature that we have, and then the opportunity to serve and help protect that, I thought it was a great opportunity to get involved. Avid outdoors person, and I live here with my wife, and I've got 2 kids, and we frequently walk our dog through some of the areas, and really just enjoy the open spaces, and saw this as a great opportunity to help be part of that and help shape the future of it.
Thank you. Good. Very good. Okay. See, that wasn't so hard. Okay. We do have an action item that we need to respond to. That at our last meeting, we were all excited and we were able to coordinate with all of our schedules and that, and work with the DPS and work with the township for our very popular dump the junk, find a treasure. And I don't know if you've been involved in that or have seen those, and so that's certainly, but we were all dead set and all ready to go for May 3rd. However, we forgot one simple thing, is that the bridge may or may not be closed at that time, and we have some real issues with when we get 15 different dumpsters and they're full of the debris, concrete and wood and yard waste, and to get that back and forth over whichever bridge would be open. So at this point in time, we have to maybe at least talk about and maybe set a time for what we should do in terms of our open space, because number one, it needs to be changed from May 3rd perhaps, but also another suitable time. So there's maybe some options here that we can look at. Any?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to go first in that. I believe that we should go forward with the May 3rd date. The reasons are, one, we have not heard any update from the county as when it might be, and we're roughly a month away from that date. The fact that they could turn something around in a month's period of time is somewhat skeptical in that. Also, if we cancel it and something doesn't happen, then we've missed out on that opportunity. Here we can always cancel essentially at the last minute if something comes about and says it is going to be closed, and then we can schedule something else. So to me, it just keeps our options open.
I agree, actually, because we don't have a date. Why change it if we don't absolutely know? I do have a question, actually, and I don't know if we have this answer or not, but it was my understanding that the toll bridge, which, yay, it's ours, we closed on it this week, right? I think. Isn't it supposed to be able to carry that kind of load that would come in the dumpsters, or is there still a limit for that?
But the maximum limit, from what I understand, is 24 tons, and that would require, and that's shut down a bridge and escort that. But the belief is some of the dumpsters, particularly with the concrete and perhaps some of the yard waste, will end up exceeding that weight and couldn't be moved from our location at. So
Okay,
that would be, and there's not a way that we could sit there and determine, how much is 24 tons,
Right.
Once we get going. So that's the complication there.
I understand. Okay.
Question also from a planning perspective on that ability to cancel it. Is it truly we can cancel at the last minute or close to?
Well, here's what at least I can share with this, okay? I did talk to, or at least got an email from Derek Thiel, our township manager, who said, if we could wait to make our decision, well, our meeting's April 1st, okay? And our event is May 3rd. So if we could wait, a week to 10 days, maybe they will know more, okay, at that point in time. I think Ray is correct in asserting that the weight limits would be, we're going to bring 15. What we normally do, we bring 15 dumpsters from priority waste here, and we fill them, and then within the next week they're out of here. Okay, so because they don't have the space or the wherewithal of at the DPS yard just down the street. So that's part of the issue. Can we cancel at the last minute? I would think we can. I mean, it's like a lot of things in life. Sorry, you can't. But that also means we have to, originally May 3rd was the date that we're okay to do. And as far as that's why we're having this discussion. So whether we should change it or what we can do, there was some suggestion that well, if we hold off and we wait until, let's say, July, there's no guarantee that the bridge will be repaired by July, okay? And so option number one, we change or we postpone the spring event, okay, which then becomes a summer event. Keep in mind, we're still planning on having a fall event, okay? Usually we have that when everybody's available, and it's generally been running like October, okay? Some early October, but so that's we're looking for that. So, excuse me. The second thing would be, let's just cancel it altogether. Let's not have a spring event. Okay, let's not have it's set for May 3rd. We can't really do it. Let's just say no. We're not going to have it, and then you're going to disappoint certainly a number of people, but there are certain realities to that too. I mean, it's not, what are you going to do? You can't do that. So that's why we're having this discussion, and that's why I want to see how, and it's an action item, so we already have it set. But whether we reaffirm what we have already established with the caveat that we may have to cancel it, or if we simply postpone it or cancel it altogether, that's the debate.
Is there an option to accelerate it by a week to mitigate the risk?
The problem with that, I think, is getting the word out to the public. As it is, we're kind of limited. If you're not on social media, then in some cases, the Grosseille Grand, if you're using that as your, it only comes out monthly, and the next edition it comes out like after April 10th, or it'll be next week. I don't know what the availability is, but that's a good point. But the concern would be how fast can we get, and I can't give you a real clear answer on that. Like, hey, can they call priority waste and can they get these to us now and get that done? I mean, that might be a question to be asked.
When I mentioned at the last minute, it basically is going to be what kind of lead time priority waste would need to mobilize, their dumpsters in that regard.
What?
Also, another reason I didn't mention before is that the spring one gets the most attention because the weather's moderating, people are cleaning up their houses and their yards and that, and we get a whole lot of traffic. To put that off or to cancel it all that stuff, who knows what happens to it in that regard. And like you said, if we postpone it, we don't know when it's going to be postponed because we still don't know when the county is going to shut it down. Plus, the 8 weeks, like most things, is probably an estimate, and it could be shorter, but past experience shows us it's likely to be longer than that. So I think I've said enough.
No, so you could move, okay, so let's say we move it to July, and then there's no guarantee it's gonna be open in July. So it's like, okay, so, sorry, we're just kidding, so we,
I prefer that it wouldn't be postponed. If anything, we hold the date, or if it's an option to accelerate it to improve the likelihood of it, we try to accelerate it by a week. I just new to the committee,
Yeah, no.
and I don't know all the planning that really and the lead times that are involved, but I think I used it last year for our first time. It was a great event, and I think it's something the community really looks forward to. So, and it's a great service. So.
I think April 26th is a good alternative, but Robert, you're going to have to step in for me because I have other commitments for that day. So
that's fine.
selfishly, I agreed on May
fine.
3rd
I
because
know,
I was
yeah, I did
around.
too. Yeah.
But is it possible to inquire whether the DPS can accommodate us
I would
on that?
think so.
To
go-
accommodate on what? Moving it up a week?
April 26th, yeah, whether that gives them enough time to, or whether, they have
That's
other
a
things
Saturday, right?
scheduled.
Okay, yeah, April 26th.
Do we know
Or-
who else from the committee would not be able to make that date?
We don't, but I can also say this, the event itself is not dependent on us.
Okay.
Okay, I mean,
Okay.
it's nice that we're there, and I'd like to think as, at least as the chairman of the, or whomever's involved with the event, we encourage everybody to participate, okay? Because the more hands on deck you have, because there's gonna be people, you help people unload, you help people, take their treasures or, load up that way. And then we generally, in the past, we have, particularly for the treasure event, we've called on charities to come, okay? And the Cass Community Services from downtown Detroit would bring a big box truck and anything that would, rather than to throw it in the dumpster because the treasure event is over at the end of the day, we would at least give it to them and it can be used or repurposed for people who are in need. And then we've been trying to do that. But it's not necessarily dependent, like we've got to be there, you can't. Ray's missed a couple, I don't think I have, but.
Yeah, the fall ones tend to be
Yeah,
more
that's tough. It's just
problematic
like,
for me. But
Right. Why don't we do this rather than we can, we could table it, but we could also, we don't have to bring it forward. We can just simply make a statement that, okay, we're still looking at May 3rd or earlier, okay, if that be the case, and just leave it at that. Okay, rather than because if I'm hearing the group correctly, it's a question of we don't want to postpone it because you know how iffy that is, okay, and we also don't want to reschedule it for a different summer date. Am I?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Fair?
no, I'll move that we change the date to the April 26th, pending the ability of the township to accommodate us. Otherwise, we will stay with the May 3rd date, pending any final decision by
Right.
the county. So,
Right.
I second.
Second by Ms. Brown. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to change to keep the date for May 3rd or to bring it forward to April 26th, pending the actions of the county for the most part, say aye.
aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Good, okay. We'll get you an answer on that pretty soon.
Just a question,
Yes.
has anything been posted on this yet, either on the website or?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
So we
No.
should,
So it's clean, so people don't know the date, if people don't know realistically.
so we probably
And it-
should do that within like the next week, because if it is the 26th, that's
We gotta
gonna
get
be
that-
just like
that's-
2.5 weeks.
Right, we gotta get the signs up, we gotta get it going, but if that's the case, that's not a problem. I said I was gonna write an article for the Grosseille Grand, but it was a question of, well, we didn't know, you know, what was going on and how that information gets out sometimes is troublesome, let's just say. Okay, that's a good one. Well, some of you have been on the trails. We've all been on the trails in some cases, and so there's at least a trail maintenance update, and I can give you that. Is that I sent some emails. We're talking about dump the junk and all this other kind of stuff, but I sent some emails to Derek Thiel and John Kime. They are particularly looking at the trail maintenance, the culverts that we're trying to put in the Meridian Woods, okay? And so if you've been on the Meridian Woods Trail, you know there's some, first off, there's a vernal wetlands there that has, a lot of times when we built the trail or built the trail up, it kind of blocked and it kind of flooded on one side and it wasn't able to get to, you know, to the normal flow to the drainage ditch on the other. So in essence, what you many times might be doing, you might be killing trees on both sides because there's no, you know, it's, you know, too much. So we've really been in the process of working with the township and working with the DPS, getting those culverts in. We did have Dr. David Dimitri, who was the head of conservation for the Detroit Zoological Society, come out and, you know, pay us a visit. He's also an expert when it comes to hydrology and amphibian life, okay? So at the time we took him through, it was still kind of cold and frosty, and he wants to come back and see it when it's wet, okay? And, you know, exactly, but he certainly said, yeah, this would, you know, this would definitely benefit for, you know, for that happening. So I have been told, and I just drove past there and I looked, and I was on my way here and I didn't have a chance, but it looks like there's been some sort of activity in there, okay? So they're maybe in the process, if they haven't already done so, of putting those culverts in, which is a great thing, okay? So I don't know if anybody else has seen that or if you've been walking that.
I have not seen it, but when you say activity for putting in the culverts, is this someone?
No, it's the DPS would be, the Department of Public Services would be.
DPS, okay,
Yeah.
so they've already been given the go-ahead to
Yes,
take
they've been
action
given the
on that.
go-ahead,
We
yes, to
just
take-
didn't
yeah,
know an
yes.
exact date. Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand.
exactly, yep. So that was, you know, they said, yeah, and again, it's weather dependent, because if they're bringing any kind of even light equipment in there, I mean, you make it work, you know, tear up the trail, tear up the, you know, they get things stuck back in there, you know, which has happened. So that's that one. Number two, the second one, and Ray, you were gone, but Yolanda Brown was there, and her with her pretty pooch, pretty dirty pooch by the time the day was over. But we have long had a trail from Grosseille Parkway to it used to be the Playscape area, okay? So we had that trail, but it had also, much like the Playscape, it had fallen into disrepair and was overgrown and was not, but it's been on our map for, you know, and Robert's looking on the map. It's been there for a very long time, okay? But it hasn't been as well maintained as others that we have put in. So we thought, well, come on. One of the biggest things that we're trying to do in one of our goals is to advance the master plan as it relates to our committee and working with other committees or working with other partners, you know, who share some of our responsibilities. So, we're looking to do that. So, having walked that, we also know that the Playscape is now, whether they're going to put another Playscape in that area or they're going to, you know, might be sold to a private individual. Mr. Geist at our last meeting at least made a motion to, and we're on record as saying, no, open space wants it, and okay, we would like to have it, and because it's surrounded by open space. So to the east, you have open space. To the south, you have open space. To the west of that area, you have open space. So, doing what we can do. So I worked with Ms. Brown and I were out there, and as we're members of the Grosseille Nature and Land Conservancy, and so we just on open space property, we extended the trail through open space to the back of the Jackson Center, which is the for the Grosse Nature and Land Conservancy. And again, what we're trying to do is improve connectivity throughout the township, and so that's one of the things we're doing. Part of those emails that I sent is that we would like to get some wood chips down, okay, and get some wood chips not only in that new little area that we've kind of cleared out of all, like some dead wood and debris, but also let's make that a workable trail. But then let's improve the trail that we have had. So that's what we're in the process. So I'm very pleased to say that's also a goal, that we're moving in that direction. We may have to, rather than put all the burden on DPS and Mr. Keim and his crew, may have to look at some volunteers to get the shovels out and get the wheelbarrows and start moving some of the wood chips on that portion of the trail. And I can't imagine, it's realistically, it's not a quarter mile.
I don't think so.
No, not even
quite.
that. No, maybe 200 meters, maybe, not even. We can measure.
Right.
Yeah. Couple of
something
things
like that.
related to that, even though I haven't seen it direct myself. The stewardship committee from the Land Conservancy was out there Monday, working on that trail, and making it more of a trail, like
Right.
clearing that out. And after our last meeting, or since the last meeting, when I made my statement about, perhaps this becoming part of open space, it's become known that this is township property existing, but it's under, shall we say, the jurisdiction of the Downtown Development Authority in that. And they are still evaluating what possible uses that piece of land might have. So at this time, there's not a favoritism or a plan to look at moving that property into open space,
Right.
but it's also, nothing is imminently planned for any other activities at this time.
But you're talking about the playscape,
the
the
pl-
former
the-
playscape property.
Yes.
Is township property. And again, the other, to the west of that is one of our trails that comes right off the parking lot in that walkway there that heads west, as we were looking at that way. We also have it from the edge of the playscape property all the way south to Parkway. And then we also have it east, okay? So it's almost like it's a carve-out. So the playscape itself, and I do have a map, which I don't know if you, so we went and checked this out. But the carved out area is the playscape area with the little dotted lines there.
Where-
1.43 acres.
This guy?
This guy, yep.
So that little carve out.
That's the carve out. But all this other space here is open space. This is open space, this is open space, this is open space, this is open space.
This is the road.
That's the road, that's Bruce Hill Parkway,
Okay.
right? Good? Any questions or any? So somewhere down the road, we're gonna have, get your shovels and wheelbarrows ready and we'll get the Boy Scouts out there or whomever else.
That's fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, so just knowing that is coming, but we'll get through the dump the junk first,
Oh,
and then
yeah,
maybe
well,
start picking up the plan for organizing volunteers to
Yes,
create the
that-
trail.
that'll be
Okay,
good.
very good.
Yes.
Hey, before you leave that subject, at the last meeting, we had questions about where the status was on the trail use signs we wish to erect. Have you received any
Yes,
information
actually,
related to
that
that?
was another part of the email. So we've had, was a productive month in many ways. We have ordered, and with the approval of the township manager and the DPS, 10 brown and white contrasting signs that will be placed at like the trailheads of our trails, okay, about trail use, okay? And these are, they're consistent with the ordinances that currently exist about open space use, but they also go a little further in terms of like, okay, hey, it's dawn to dusk. Pick up after yourself. There's no open fires. And those are pretty standard language. But again, in some of our trails, like the Meridian Woods one, for example, it would be appropriate to have it on Meridian, but also we have a connector on East River. So where you have those kinds of longer trails, there will be like one sign at one end, one at the other. The other trail, for example, that are like sometimes they're dead end trails, okay? They don't really bust out anywhere else, and you can only have a single access. You only need one sign, okay? Centennial Farm is an example of that, where you would have, there's a big loop and you come back. That runs on the other side of Manchester, that runs almost to Meridian from Centennial Farm. If you haven't been back there, that's a good nice trail too. Or if you take a look at the bird sanctuary area, that maybe you don't really need two, because the other one is like it's never used from that other end, the access point. So those are but yes, so we've ordered those, and those are coming, and they should be in there. They're not 8.5 by 11. They're 12 by 18 size, which is not too big, not too small. About the same thing if you would see like a no parking sign in a neighborhood or something like that. They're about that size. So that's that. Anything else? Okay. Earth Week activities. Here we go. We've been busy. Open space is busy. I wish our students were here today, but they're not, and so they must be home studying diligently, of course, after spring break. But we do know that we're working with the schools K through 12 in terms of coordinate with them like their campus cleanups, okay? So if nothing else, we're encouraging them to, asking them, what are you doing for Earth Day, or what are you doing for Earth Week? And so we're trying to get them aware or more, actively involved with something as simple as a cleanup of their, of the grounds around their building, and what they can do with that. We do know that and that's why I was gonna wish the students were here. We do have our little project is to clean up all of our signs. Okay, the open space signs that designate. So, and you can do, we say you can do that anywhere from the day after Easter, the 21st, all the way through the 27th. There's a time to do that, okay? And we'll supply the buckets, or we'll supply the biodegradable supplies and scrub brushes, but what we want them to do at whatever, and it doesn't have to be, students, it can be adults too. If you live right next door to an open space area and you have a sign that you can hardly read, or it's filthy, or it's got all this moss on it, or all this mold, then this is the week to just go out there and clean it up and see what we got, because we're in the process of replacing a number of our signs, and so we're there are some that are salvageable. There's others that you can't even it's open space, but you don't know the acreage, and you certainly don't know when it was put in open space. It kind of looks like 1983, but it's kind of like, open space wasn't even around in 83. So, or if it was under the auspices of the township, and they had some foresight to set property aside. I'm very serious about that. So that's where, at least from our standpoint. Ray, I know you're going to talk a little bit about the Nature Conservancy later.
Yes.
Okay, about that, but we have, and you are invited certainly to attend too. On the 14th at 3:00, we're meeting with Dr. Julia Roscoe and her environmental group at the high school to kind of finalize. Okay, what's your plans for Earth Week or Earth Day, and your participation. I would be remiss to remind our viewing public, if I didn't, that the island-wide cleanup by the Kiwanis is on that Saturday, April 26th, from 10 o'clock to noon. Okay, people are to meet at the Joe Berkey VFW hall at before 10 o'clock, and they will assign you a certain area, or you and your family, or you and your friends and whomever, bus loads of people that will have to come can help, but they'll provide the gloves and the trash bags and point you in the right direction. You've got this section, and that way it's taken care of. But that's happening on the 26th. And then there's some special events at the Nature and Land Conservancy Jackson Center on Macomb that Ray will speak to later. But those are, so anything about Earth Day or Earth events?
There's a lot. Actually, I'll share with what comes up for me as you mention these other items is the 26th, the island-wide cleanup, and yet previously we talked about would we do dump the junk on that date or
Right.
not? Would that be a conflict, or would it actually complement the island-wide cleanup
help.
day?
Might help. When I think about it, right?
Right?
Light bulb goes off here.
Yeah, and it's only 2 hours, and you're right, people are out, and, people drop things off, so it wouldn't interfere with any activities they have related to that day. That's not a bad idea
Interesting
to
thought.
tie
I was
that
thinking
in.
the same thing.
Right.
As long as people aren't stepping on each other's toes, that might complement rather well.
Right, very much so.
Right.
The other thing when we do dump the junk, we also try to coordinate that with the, the Rotary has their shredding event. So they've been doing that like from 9 to noon, so you can bring whatever documents or whatever things you want to shred, your recipe that you really dislike, so you can add that to it. But it's like, so I won't go there. But anyway, needless to say, those are some Earth Week activities. And I only say this only because as a young lad in 1970, I was able to participate in the first Earth Day in, in those events and cleaning up and doing stuff there. So some pretty interesting stuff that obviously stayed with me for a couple of years here. Yes.
Yes.
Along those lines, if we can go to number 3, is that we have an Eagle Scout, Joshua Burwald, has approached us. He wants to do some work, or he wants to do, some sort of project, for his Eagle Scout. And we were very happy to work with the Eagle Scout last year in getting a observation deck off on the Thoroughfare Canal. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but as you drive down or take, pull your car in there, so you can pull your car in there and go down and take a look at the Phragmites that are now probably regrowing, but it's there. But we were able to work with Eagle Scouts, and we encourage that. But we were, if we're looking at another, your ideas about any ideas that you may want to throw out, and we can talk about. Because we're.
Has Joshua put forth any of his thoughts?
No, not really, not yet. At least I told him. I said, so get out there and figure out where maybe you want to. Here's your open, gave him the booklet. Here's your open spaces. What, think of the possibilities that you may want to do.
So for the project, are there parameters for, to accomplish? Does he need to build something, create something new, or I'm not sure what the requirements are.
I don't think it's necessarily, because we've had Eagle Scouts. I know working with the Girls Nature and Land Conservancy, they've done things like replanting or restoring an area that was overgrown, and they did planting. So it's not necessarily like I got to go build a deck, or I got to go do something of that nature. Although that could very well be the case. There has been Eagle Scout projects in some of the other nature conservancy properties that they have built decks, or they've done that. It seems to be a popular event. But again, what they have to do, they got to obviously work through the township. They have to work. Get to see how government works. Firsthand. They got to work with our committee first off, and then proceed. They have to work with Eagle, the environmental group on the at a state level, because if you're looking at a wetlands or some sensitive areas, they have to be able to do that. So things like that. They also have to raise the money in order to. So it's a big deal. So it's not like, I just want to go out and build a deck, and that's that. But
Well, thinking along the lines of the deck, what about a way to create a seating area of sorts that is actually in the middle of, one of our trails? Because then a person could actually maybe just do a little bird watching, like to be able to sit and be in the middle of the open space. I know we have some benches at the opening, like I'm over by the Island Ferry and I see the new bench there, love it. But maybe creating an opportunity for that actually can encourage being in the middle of the open space on the trail. And it also could be a rest spot for if you're having a rough time making it through the trail.
No, that's. I can tell you generally, and it's generally, at least it's since I've been on this committee, and it's, been a few years, even when Cliff was the chairperson, okay, they generally did not look for like man-made benches to be put into the, into the open spaces. What they did do was, like when they built some of these trails, is that they took the trees that they had felled or had fallen, and they made, and I don't know, have you seen those? Okay, they've kind of made like these, rustic type
a way
of,
to rest.
right?
Yeah.
And that may be, that may be suitable as opposed to, you put a lazy boy out there or something. I mean,
gosh.
no, I'm using that as an example, but
Right,
like,
but-
or a couch,
but
but
some way
something
to
like
support
that. That's
that
how
idea.
it's fashioned, I think, is, but I don't think
Which
that's.
could be part of the
That
creativity.
could be part of the creativity, yeah, exactly, so.
Well, perhaps along that thinking is that you've seen some benches made out of small logs or branches or things like that, so it has a bit of a rustic
Right.
feel to it and can serve a purpose
Right.
like that. So there might
No,
be
I know,
some
I'm just saying, I'm just using that as
opportunities
an
there.
example.
Stay
Although
with-
there is a bench, I'll be honest with you, in the trail that goes from Horse Mill through the bird sanctuary area along the Thoroughfare Canal, there's that's part of the garden club, put one in there like back in the 40s or 50s, okay, so, they're, at least they dedicated that to a person that was, involved in that. Derek Thiel also suggested, one of the things that maybe we'd like, depending on how big of a project you want to look at, is that moving the kayak launch from Water's Edge over here to maybe a different place or a different position, like on the, so that might be that's a pretty major undertaking, but
Right.
but even so, it could be, it can be done, you know what I'm saying? So that might be a possibility. So if nothing else, why don't we just, let's be open and let's maybe think about what we may want to do in terms of, some possibilities for this young man.
Is there a timeline or anything that
I
we're working towards?
it sounds like he wants to get at it sooner than later. I think he's like a sophomore now and wants to, work on it maybe this summer and work, so it's like April, so time is of the essence here. And he's got to come up with the plans and, the drawings and, it's pretty extensive. But it also might be something that if he got all that taken care of, he could maybe like start in the fall or get it done in the fall. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, that the Eagle Scout project with Enzo was, it only took him a couple days to get that done.
Yeah, the longest period of time was getting, I think, permits or
Yeah.
approval from the county. But yeah, get the materials. Once he had everything together, he had
He got it done, and he had volunteers, and he had people helping him, so it was,
Yep.
it's a great thing, so, yeah. Good. Okay, so keep your eyes open or your ears open on that one, or thoughts about what you would like to see or what maybe we can do. Well, one of the things that we have is now that we have some new members, okay, is that, I see you have your coveted Guide to the Natural Areas of GROSSE, okay, and, we have 5 major trails, okay, or certain areas, and we would like, one of our kind of like jobs, okay, which is generally at your leisure, as you're doing it, or as is that we generally assign maybe areas, okay, that would be close to your home so that you can kind of keep monitor, but to maybe kind of steward, certain properties. So like, for example, Ray and I are at least in this vicinity, and we generally, cover the Meridian Woods trails and the East River extension. So we've got that covered. Roberta Urbani generally covers the Centennial Farm. I know that Teresa Weeks used to cover also Centennial Farm because it abutted her property. And so there's some possibilities here. We have somebody that lives near Ferry, the Ferry Gauge Trail, that might be possible.
I
Robert?
live right near a wildlife sanctuary.
So there you go. So there might be some logical, natural kind of extensions where, the open space areas near, from north of this part, or that's your quadrant, So we've got, this way we pretty much have them covered. And if nothing else, like we said before, James Brock is our liaison to the ordinance enforcement portion. And if we see something, or there's an issue, or some, I can use a simple example. You have a bad storm coming, look at what happened up in Gaylord and that area. It's like, whoa, okay. So you have a ton of trees down that, but, where are they at? Well, they're in the Ferry Gauge Trail. How do we know? Because you told us, okay, you saw it, you walked the area, stuff like that. So that would be a real simple thing, So you either call me, generally call me, okay, and then I'll make it, because you don't want 15 different, I got a call from him, or whatever, but call me, and then we generally move it to the next level, so where we need to go, so, which is, generally we call TNT, get out there, get it off the trail, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's good. So, that good? Good on that? You accept that, Reese, here?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's our little stewardship piece. Now, we have another little thing that we do, whether you know it or not. Teresa Weeks did a great job on this, and I want to thank her for her service throughout the entire time that she was on the committee. But when people move to Grosseal, we want to let them know all about greenways and open space. And so we generally send them a nice little letter welcoming, inviting them to come to our meetings, okay, or to be involved and, participate. We send them the coveted, guide to natural areas, things of this, but they're welcome letters. And the township generally supplies whomever would be responsible for sending the, so we provide the envelopes and the mailing, stuff like that. I think they mail it from here, but, you have to maybe stuff some envelopes, and that's usually done like on a monthly. Actually, we've been doing it like on a quarterly basis, okay? So you wait and collect enough, okay, depending on, obviously, the activity and people moving to Grosseal or moving around Grosseal even. So, as they say, but the township provides that. And I think the township also provides that to, like all the churches, just to kind of get them. So we're trying to at least, get our name out there and get our word out there. Would either of you be interested in doing the welcome letter to our new members, new people who move?
You're talking about like the next cycle, or for that to be basically the assignment responsible
That'll be
for
your
moving
job.
forward?
That would be somebody's job.
I'll do it.
I'll share it with you if you want.
All right, go
There you
team.
go.
All right.
Well, that'd be good.
We got this.
Yeah, we could alternate. I'm all
Do
about
something like
share the
that.
wealth, right? No, that's cool. And it's not, as I said, we've been doing it quarterly. First off, we stopped doing it for a while because we ran out of books, okay? Because we had these, to be honest, okay? But this is hot off the press, and it's, these are going to be good for another, how many ever years, 3 to 5 years. Roberta Urbani's not going to do it again, okay? She's already made that clear. But that'll be somebody else's project down the road, as we, acquire. But thank you. That would be awesome.
When does the next cycle need to be done?
Exactly.
As soon as we get the new addresses
Okay.
and things like that, we'll get you guys set up.
Enough.
I'll let you know that.
I'll watch
I
for
think the
your-
most recent ones went out within the last month. of
Yeah.
that,
So you have time.
Okay.
So maybe like for the summer.
Sure.
That sound good?
May, June. Yeah.
Thank you, yeah. And again, we don't have meetings in July or August. Unless there's something comes up, like people, we have to interview people and have a special meeting and, no, I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, school liaison team is not here, and so I will have to take them to task, but I said it's Alicia Shelton's birthday, so happy birthday, Alicia.
Happy birthday.
That's right. We would be very disappointed if you attended this evening. Okay, but, okay. Township liaison, Mickey Bartlett is again at a professional development opportunity for township officials, and so she is not here, and she sends her regards, certainly. Anything at the township that we are aware of or need to address? Other than, I know they've finalized the budgets, okay, that has taken place, so we are, we're looking in that regard. So that's, in April 1st is our beginning of our fiscal year, so we're now looking at any monies that we spend. We'll obviously go on this year's budget that we've established, and we did that at our last couple of meetings. James Brock's not here for community development, but community development is moving along too. I think there's progress on with the DDA, and also progress in terms of the master plan. And Ray, do either of you know any more about like how they're progressing on the master plan? Because I know
No, I don't.
they have to. I think if they haven't already started, there are going to be hearings on the master plan, like the final draft of the master plan, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be approved by the planning commission, and then it would go to the township board, and then that would be the master plan that would guide us for the next how many ever years, 20 years or so. That makes sense?
Right.
Yes, that's it. Mandy is on vacation, but Ray, I think, is going to fill in for her in terms of talking about the Grosse Nature and Land Conservancy activities, or what's happening with that.
Okay, I must admit I do not have any insight into the inner workings of the conservancy itself. However, they do have a number of events that are coming up, so I'll just quickly summarize them. This coming Sunday on the 6th, there's a program called Animals in Spring. It will be held at the Meridian Woods, the entrance there along Meridian Road near the elementary school. And, that should be self-explanatory, as most of these headlines are. Then on this coming Monday, the 7th, is the deadline for the Bruce Jones scholarship applications for Grosse seniors and that. The applications must be submitted by 6 p.m. come Monday. That's coming right up. Later in April, on the 22nd, it's a Tuesday, there's going to be a talk about Orioles, not the baseball team, but the birds. And that's going to be held at the John C. Jackson Resource Center, and that'll be from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Backtracking, I'm sorry, I forgot the Sunday event at Meridian Woods, Animals in Spring. That's going to be held from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Then we've talked a little bit about this before. On Saturday 26th is the Island Cleanup. That's taking place from 10 a.m. to noon. As Chairman Stevenson mentioned, Kiwanis is meeting at the VFW. Those that wish to work with the Grosse Nature and Land Conservancy will meet at the Jackson Resource Center, which is basically across the street from the VFW hall. So they work in tandem with one another. So you can attend either location. They'll be happy to see you there. Also, the following day, Sunday the 27th, there will be an Earth Day celebration at the John C. Jackson Resource Center. That is going to take place between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. It's going to include a number of speakers and some activities, and probably most exciting of all, a raffle. So
There you go.
check that out. And before we meet again, on May 3rd, it's going to be a Saturday, a program called Creepy Crawlies, and that's going to be at the Bird Sanctuary. And that's going to be held from 1 to 2:30. So, Robert, you probably need to check out that trail before May 3rd. Make sure it looks good for them.
For creepy crawlies.
That's on my
Like
list.
anything, more details for these events can be found at their website. I am going to make one little plug, is that each Monday at 9 a.m., 9 to noon, the Stewardship Committee for the Conservancy meets and works on maintenance for the properties they own, and also around the resource center that doesn't require any professional, licensed professional in that regard. So if you like to get outside and work with your hands, this is a great opportunity in that. We can never have too many people helping out in that regard. And that is my
Good.
report.
Thank you. Thank
For
you for
Amanda Phillips.
Thank you for
I hope
taking
I
over
did
for
ya.
Mandy.
Thank you.
She did fine.
Adequate.
Good. Welcome letters. We will, now that we have that assigned, we'll get that information as soon as you can. We're at that portion of our meeting that we also have our second public comment time. And I won't say buses are circling the parking lot for people to come, but it's okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:58.
All motion?
Motion moved
I
by
second.
Mr. Carson,
Sorry, I second.
second by Ms. Brown. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Good. Well, welcome.